Da, da, da. Mellow Monday, folks, family, friends. How are we all doing on this Monday evening? Hope everyone's doing well. Hi, Naomi. Hi, Andre. Naomi, I will add you. Da, da, da. Naomi, I've accepted. Are you coming in? I've sent you the request now, so I'm sure we did it. I'll send you both requests. I know you did. I answered it. You requested to join, and I answered you, babe. I've sent you both requests. Right. So Andre turned on video.
Can you see me?
No, I just see myself. I can hear you.
You can hear me, but you can't see me. What is going on
I can
here?
hear you, but I just don't see no screen.
That is
Oh man,
weird.
what is
All right,
going on
wait. Let me come out
Instagram?
and come back in again.
Yeah. Go live with Naomi Gray Moments. There. I've clicked Naomi. Oh, Naomi, I've just asked to go live with you. Why have you done what you just did now? I mean, I know I've just sitting and walk. Oh, God. Yes, Nay, I've done it. Oh, this Instagram is really not liking me today. Hi, guys. A few technical issues. I'm trying to get Naomi on and our guest, Andre. Right, accept. Go live with Andre. Naomi says you're unable to join. It says you isn't able to join. And it says you declined. So I don't know what's going on. Right, yes! Brother
You
Andre,
can see me.
how you doing, King? Everything
What?
well?
Come on. Everything Irish.
Yeah. It's been a minute. Well, it's been more than a
It's
minute. It's
been a
been
lot
a
of
while.
minutes. It's been
It's
a
been a
many,
lot of
many
minutes,
minutes.
a lot of days, a lot of hours, a lot of
That's it.
months. Right.
How are you?
I am well. You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm breathing
Come
life.
on.
And my senses are working, so I'm all good, man. I'm all
That
good.
is it.
I'm trying to see if I can connect Naomi again.
Mm.
Because I don't know what is going on with this thing. Right, Naomi, I'm inviting you, so don't please no do nothings. Invite. I've sent you an
Technology.
invite now. So hopefully that will work. Oh, she'll join from another account. Oh my God. You see, lately we've realized Instagram, I don't think it likes what we're doing.
Yeah, it's been acting crazy. Do you know all the
Yeah, it's
platforms
been,
have been like that recently, I feel.
yeah, it's been
Like
acting strange, man.
glitches on glitches.
Yeah. They're unable to post certain things and yeah.
Mm. Mm-mm.
It's been crazy. Here she
Mm-mm.
is.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Well, it
whoa.
doesn't, whatever account you're using, it doesn't like it.
Mm, mm.
It really, it don't
It
like the
really
account.
does not like that account joining the live because it wouldn't
No,
let me go live before.
no.
Interesting. How you
You've
doing,
been
Queen and King? How you both
Hey,
doing?
doing
in the
well, man.
house.
How are you? How are you? How are you, Naomi?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good.
I can only
I'm
Yeah.
imagine.
surviving. I'm living. I'm here. I'm breathing. So I'm good.
Yes, babe. Yes, family, people. Myself and Naomi, Sisters Talk About, would like to welcome you to another one of our live conversations with, and today we're with André Bright. Who's an
Pew, 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 pew,
architect.
pew.
Should I get out my whistle?
You know
Should I
what
go
I
and get
mean?
my whistles and blow the whistle?
The loved, the talented, and respected, and highly blessed André Bright. Welcome to
Yes,
the Sisters Talk
yes.
About platform.
I am honored to be here. It's a
Oh,
pleasure. It's a pleasure, for
Thank
sure.
you so much. So, Mr. Architect, Dancer, and Coach, tell us a bit about yourself. What you do? What are those titles?
yes.
Oh,
Explain.
okay, yeah. Do you know what? It's so architecture is what I studied at uni, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's the study of buildings. I specifically specialized in sustainable architecture at first, but now it's
Yeah.
more commercial building design. Um, Dance is what I found really when I was in uni. So obviously, to my mum's joy, not was was like I would be coming back from uni talking about dance, and then she's like, "That's not what we're there for." But it became like a really big, it became this really big element, and then things just took off dance wise. So
Okay.
I found myself traveling a lot, doing a lot of competitions
Mm-hmm.
internationally, doing some commercial work, etc. Coaching is the most recent thing though.
Okay.
I'd say maybe last year really is when I really started it. But that one is executive coaching, so helping businesses, helping people in their careers, that kind of thing, helping people
Mm-hmm.
who are entrepreneurs and stuff with their time management and being productive and all these kind of things.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. So those are my three main things that I do. But outside of that, there's even more stuff. But those are like my three
yes.
main pillars,
Yeah.
as if this one was not enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Your list is endless, babes. Your list is
Yeah.
endless. You didn't even mention become
Oh,
immersive.
snap.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to say that. Yeah. Yeah, what happened to that plug? That
Yeah,
plug in
yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
No.
it's actually a mad thing. This is why I need you lot around, because I just forget these things. Because Become Immersive was like, and I'd say it's on hold at the moment just because of some of the stuff I'm doing. But Become
Okay.
Immersive, the whole tagline towards the end was changing the brand of Africa and its descendants from the inside out. And the whole
Mm-hmm.
idea around that was um, looking at what our view of ourselves is, how we galvanize ourselves, that kind of thing. So there were a lot of projects which were around empowerment, discussions through the pandemic. We had Become Talks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we just similar to this, and we just had a lot of different elements that we did all towards this idea of our mentality and taking control and narrative back. So
Mm.
that's what Become Immersive was.
Wow. Ah, yeah,
Yeah.
your list is endless, babes. I remember the talks that you used to hold,
Yes.
and they were
Yeah.
so powerful. And powerful. And I always learned something. There was
Yeah.
always
Do you know?
something that one or more than one person shared that I learned so much about and made
Yeah.
some great connections from those talks.
I tell you
So thank
what,
you,
Yeah, thank
sir.
my
you.
job was easy. I just put people in the space, to be honest with you, and I
Mm,
just my
Yeah.
my my thing was just to keep the conversation within the
Yeah.
parameters of whatever question we gave.
Mm.
But that's all I
yeah,
was
yeah,
doing really, and then we
yeah.
Mm.
just let people talk, and it was just
Yeah.
wicked. It was awesome.
Mm,
Like I learned stuff as well.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the subject matters were so wide and
Yeah,
diverse. Really
yeah.
were.
Because we had
But yeah, I
So,
really enjoyed those.
yeah,
talking of
our
subject
basic.
matter.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
let's
sorry,
go.
Andre, carry
Let,
on, darling.
no, I was just
No,
literally
carry on.
just gonna say like we use like a really basic framework of health, wealth, relationships, and identity. Those were our four pillars.
Mm,
Yeah.
And so
mm,
when it came to coming up with titles, it started off with just brainstorming under those four categories, and then just like
Mm.
all kinds of questions. And then afterwards, it was more listening to the kind of questions that were happening online and within the talks themselves. And we saw what kind of themes kept coming up and stuff. So that's where those topics came from.
mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm.
that's interesting to know.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
yes,
yeah,
so moving on to tonight's topic.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah. What's
Naomi.
going on?
Do you want to share what the topic is, Naomi? What is the topic today?
Should I act it
Hour.
out before I share it? Should I
No,
act
just
it?
please share. We're limited on time. Time. let's no acting. No
It'll be very entertaining,
The
very.
drama.
no acting.
But vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Okay, got you.
Vulnerability, and like I want to say the context of vulnerability and like the reason for it, the power of it, the dynamics of vulnerability, and then we can split it in between vulnerability between from both sexes as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, I need to pin this.
Yeah.
Just put vulnerability.
I need to pin it. So that means
Yeah. Tighten it up.
yeah.
Vulnerability. Not really.
Yeah.
Oh, you're typing.
I just put vulnerability. Well, what else did you say? What is it? What did you say? You said something at the beginning.
Oh my God. I said so much, like the dynamics of vulnerability, the aspects of vulnerability, like breaking it down, like the reasons behind it. So who would like to go first? What's your thoughts on vulnerability?
Man, do you know? Okay. We
I like how you just wiped your face down first.
do you know what it is? Yeah, because obviously we had this conversation before, innit? So, but I'm also part of there's an initiative called He's Vulnerable When, and it is
by Cheer
by
Phoenix.
Cheer Phoenix, yeah. And that was like one of the things that really got me talking about vulnerability more frequently. And it was brilliant because as a space, it was a lot of us who were just talking about our experiences around vulnerability. But then as the years kind of continued, I looked into it a little bit, and there's for Andre, and I'm always going to do this because I'm not going to be a spokesperson for every person in the world, but for me, vulnerability is the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of like deep connections.
Yeah.
And the thing about vulnerability is that I feel that vulnerability is giving someone something they could hurt you with and kind of trusting that they won't. And so, for example, you can give someone loads of information, but for me, it's not vulnerable unless it's kind of like dear to you.
Yeah.
So everyone's concept of what is vulnerable is going to be different. Because like some people might feel vulnerable about this because it's an insecurity or whatever, but the next person doesn't have that as a vulnerability because they talk about it everywhere and they don't care. So for me, that's where it kind of comes from. It's like, what are the things that are dear to you? What are the things that you are still learning about yourself, the things that you're not sure about, all that kind of stuff. When you share those things with people, that for me is like vulnerability and that kind of authenticity. Like, okay, I'll give you a really easy example. How are you? Right? There's levels of vulnerability to how people will answer that question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Most people would just be like, yeah, I'm good. Right? That would be like the first layer because you're just answering the question. The next level is like, I could be better. Right? That's still it's still near the top, but it's not fully vulnerable, right? Vulnerable for me is when you get to the point where like I'm struggling, I'm in it deep, all that kind of stuff. And you can only really do that with certain people. And I find that those people are people who you've given things to with the opportunity for them to like, use against you, but they haven't consistently over time. And so then you trust them. And then you give them the big stuff. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay. I'd kind of agree with you there. I see it as a form, like you said, opening yourself up, opening up yourself bare to somebody and putting your trust in them.
Yeah.
Hoping that they will not break that trust, because that just opening yourself up. And I had a big issue with that. I just didn't want to be hurt, so I just didn't make myself vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I would see it as a weakness.
Yeah.
I would say now, I used to see it as a weakness, but it's actually quite endearing, really.
Mm. It
It
is.
is.
It is.
Yeah. I would see it as a weakness. So, no, you're not breaking. No. Too close. No, it's okay. Just stay right. I don't need to give you everything. I just give you like 20-40% of you. That's all you need. It's fine. Good.
Yeah.
But I realized that wasn't working.
Well,
Mm.
And I realized, but Fiona, you do have to kind of give more to kind of get something back. Because if you're not
Yeah.
giving anything
mm,
until you're hitting that brick wall and that person doesn't see the full you, the actual you who you are inside. So I had to, you know what? No, you know what? It's fine. I've kind of trust this person now. I'm going to just like relax, breathe, inhale, exhale, breathe, let it out.
yeah.
This is me. This now is me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Laying bare, as they say.
Laying there, man.
And
How
it's
did
peak.
you feel? Sorry.
No,
How did you feel in that moment when you made the decision? What in those two moments when you made the decision to make that change, and then when you actually did make that change, how did you feel in those two moments?
Firstly, when I made that change, it felt a bit alien. It felt a little bit weird at first, but then because I was trusted that person and I felt comfortable with them, that feeling didn't last that long. I felt okay. I was like, well, why didn't I just do this before? Basically,
Yeah.
why did I wait so long? I could have done this before, but okay, again, it's the fact of because you could hurt me and use that against me, and I don't want to be hurt. No one likes being hurt. Thank that. Fuck that. Yeah, nah. And then the other question was, what was the other question? When I made the decision, it wasn't one of those things where, to be honest, I didn't say, "You right, okay, I'm going to start being vulnerable now." It wasn't like that, to be honest.
Okay.
It was a gradual thing for me, like small little steps. Because I said, "You need to take it easy with me now, because I ain't used to doing this. I don't normally do this, and I don't normally say this. So you just need to be patient, please." Then in that sense, I guess it's communication as well. Especially if you're in a relationship with someone, this is how I see it. And if you're in a relationship, it's all about that communication. Because if that person sees you as not being vulnerable, explain to them, right? Okay, you want me to be like this. However, because of this, I'm doing my best. So please bear with me. You know what I mean? And it's communication, understanding, and you'll get there. But vulnerability is not a bad thing, especially on a man. But then again, that's for me. I would say as a female, there's a flip side to that. As for on a man, as a female, I would say for on a man, me feel sorry for on a because in this day and age, you're saying yes, man. Open up yourselves, be vulnerable, let us see. But then on the flip side of that, you have some women, oh, just to call them dogs. That's, like you said, will use that against you, and they went wrong to use it. And for me, I think, and I know a few men have said to me, that's why when they're in certain relationships or speaking to certain women, they won't open up as much because of how it's been used against them in the past. And they're like, no, it burnt. They're like, no. They're like, you women can be dangerous, you know. You can be dangerous. I don't want to lay myself there and just get fucked over. I don't want to do it. And I'm not going to lie, women, we can be calling bitches. Things. I've seen it. We can use people's weakness against them, especially men will use their weakness against them, and it's not pretty and it's not nice. That's just my opinion. Someone said in here, giving security said, it is a feeling of being defenseless or powerless, often associated with feelings of fear.
100%.
100%.
Do you know I would say as a caveat to that though is I'm not sure if it's powerless though. So I definitely agree with being defenseless because you're not defending yourself, but powerless, I'm not sure I'd agree. The reason why I say that is because like
Yeah.
I find that the image I have in my head is someone who is without armor, right? And so the
Mm.
thing with armor is it means that if someone attacks you, you've got that line of defense, right? So it can't get through to your skin to pierce your
Yeah.
body. But if
Mm-hmm.
you are strong and you are agile, then without armor, you still have power, but it just means that you don't have that line of defense. So it's like
Mm.
in a relationship, what that might look like is that you are defenseless, like, you know, you've given them everything that they could use to like
Mm-hmm.
use it against you, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But one thing I find that is really important about vulnerability, which is the flip side of it, is how resilient you are as an individual. So it's like,
Mm.
if someone was to use this against you, how could you survive? Like, so let's say, for example, I am actually working on my healing and my triggers and all these kind of things, and
Mm.
I'm working on shame and guilt and all that kind of stuff. So if someone was to use it against me, it would have no power
Mm.
anyway, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's another element of vulnerability is like you, there's one aspect of what you give to other people that they could use against you, but it's also what you do with yourself to make yourself strong as well.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I get
even
that.
even without the armor, you're still able to carry on.
I think in the context of power, vulnerability is like a light switch. It's like to act and live in the space of vulnerability. That's where you switch off the light to the power, because you create that space, you allow yourself to be powerless and to be open and exposed. But then on the flip side, because you had the ability to do that, that is actually why on the other side of the switch, when you turn it on, that's where the power is. So I see it as like light switch
Mm,
on, light switch off.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, yeah, where my mindset is. It's like you give away the power to be vulnerable,
mm,
but then to be vulnerable allows you to be powerful.
mm,
So say if
Mm.
somebody was to use it against you, you, because you had that ability to control and, well, to somewhat control, because it is like controlling, but then you're letting go at the same time. So you're
mm,
allowing like to lose that control, but that is actually powerful. So if somebody was to
Mm.
use it against you, you're within your power to be resilient and not allow it to affect you.
mm.
And
And
I
all,
think that's where maybe some people may have the difficulties with vulnerability, because say there are some people that have been vulnerable, but then when it's been used against them, they don't realize their power, that it was actually powerful to be vulnerable in the first place.
mm. I
I
think
don't
it'd be
know.
good to explore as
Mm.
well what power looks like in different contexts. Like one thing that comes to
Mm.
mind is this is going to be such a random link, okay? So bear with me.
I, we will
So
bear with,
Nay,
bear with, we'll bear
we're,
with.
Nay knows how.
we're open to randomness,
Oh, I'm
love.
telling you, the way my mind works is wahala up there. But so you know, there's that scene in 8 Mile, right, where Eminem
Uh-huh.
is doing his battle at the very end, the last one. He starts his battle by saying all the things that the other person could say against him,
Okay.
Yes, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
right?
So you could
Which
hurt
is
him.
which means that
Yeah.
he can't be hurt anymore. Like, because
Mm.
anything you could possibly say against me, I've just said in front of all
Said
these
it.
people. I've been vulnerable by exposing to myself, and that has made me powerful because now you've got no more
Mm.
to give.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that is an element as well. When you get to, which is what I was saying, like if you prepare yourself to be resilient, then it means that even being strong, vulnerable, you still you still hold some of that power, which is basically what you were saying just now, Naomi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it ain't easy though. It
Mm-mm.
ain't easy at all.
I, s- Right. So growing up,
I'm ready.
I was like on the flip to Fiona. I was
Oh, so someone's
constantly
requested to
vulnerable.
join. 1 second. Did you mean to
Okay.
do that?
Who is it?
Mel is came said she would like to join. And I just seen it pop up.
Okay.
I didn't realize she was on it. Hi, Mel. Hi, Hugh. There was hello, everybody.
Hey peeps. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Just seen your request to join. How you
Hello.
doing?
Sorry, I didn't mean to request to join. Hi, I
Oh,
was just saying good evening.
good
So
evening.
my
Welcome.
apologies. You can
Well,
cut me
now
off
you're
now.
here. Now you're here. We would like your perspective on what is vulnerability. What is that to you? Since you've joined.
Vulnerability as a woman. What's the context? In what context?
You know, in all
What is,
honesty, whatever context that you would like to put it in,
yeah.
let's just
How
give
do you see
the word,
vulnerability?
and then where is your mind traveling to when you think of vulnerability?
Mm.
Wow, that's a question. It goes to so many different places. I would say vulnerability. For some reason, confidence and worthy, being worthy comes to mind.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
being worthy, whether you're worthy for whatever it is, am I capable, that kind of thing.
mm,
It's, yeah. And it brings the vulnerabilities because, you get your anxieties and you get your, can I
Okay.
actually do this? Yeah. Becomes the
Yeah.
question. You question yourself a lot when that happens.
Mm. So
mm,
is that in the context of how somebody making you feel confident, or somebody making you feel worthy for you to be
Mm.
able to let down the
I
guards for
think
you to
it's
open up?
I think it's a bit of both because it can be an angle worthy, as in it can be relationships in personal and work environments, I think, or business,
mm,
because
Mm.
whether you're worthy of that promotion that you might be going for, in your business life or and then it's on the other side, it's the relationship and feeling strong enough in that relationship, I think, and how that person makes you feel. And it's a
mm,
case of how you felt last time in another relationship. Do you bring
Mm.
that forward because that person's made you feel away? Because we carry it
mm,
with us,
Mm-hmm.
don't we? What that
Yeah.
other
Mm-hmm.
person said and made you feel away that you're like, okay, is this person going to think the same thing?
Mm.
mm,
Mm.
So, yeah.
But then
That's,
I feel like that we can carry it, but then also it's a choice if you're going to carry it or not, and when to let go of that and not to bring it forward.
yeah.
To learn
Mm.
from it, but not to carry it forward like it's going to happen again.
Mm,
mm,
yeah. Yeah,
Very
definitely. But
true.
it is still overcoming it. It is still having that,
Yeah, just about
it's
to say that.
overcoming it,
Yeah.
and saying, actually,
Mm-hmm.
this person isn't treating me the same way. They're not, responding to me in the same way. So what I was feeling, maybe it wasn't me, it was the other person.
mm.
It was just a
Mm.
reflection,
Mm-hmm.
of what they thought of themselves.
Do you know what comes to mind with when it comes to the worth conversation? Because I feel like worth as a word is a whole session by itself, right? That's a
Yeah.
whole other
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. But like I really like what you said about that. There's also an element in my head which is vulnerability with yourself. Like,
Mm.
when Naomi was saying is how they make you feel, but how do you make yourself feel?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
how honest are we with ourselves about who we are and how we're doing on a day to day or all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. And then looking at when it comes to how we're treated by people, is looking at, okay, what is my contribution? What was their contribution? And
Mm.
then actually facing it so that you don't bring it into the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't solve itself by accident,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you
Mm.
kind of got to lean into it and just be like, okay, cool, this is what I did, this is what they did.
Yeah.
And for me anyway, that's the only way I can move forward without bringing it into my next relationship.
Mm.
Mm. Accountability plays a
Yeah.
huge
There
part
you
there.
go. Just that word
Yeah,
always pops up
that word.
in every conversation.
Accountability.
In
Word.
every conversation we have, that word is
It
everything
keeps
draws back
cropping up.
to
Yeah.
And
accountability.
that being accountable is so powerful. I'll never forget when I came out of my last serious relationship. And because I went through 2 really bad relationships, which I eventually left. And then I was for a while like, they did this, he did this, and he did this to me. And then I can remember someone saying to me, you see the 3 fingers pointing back to yourself. And I was like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when I started to do the actual action, you know, like using my hand the way that I was talking, and then I looked at my hand and I was like, yeah, 3 fingers are pointing back at me. And then I started to be honest with myself, and I said to myself, but you allowed it. Yes, they did this, but you allowed it. Yes, they did that, but you stayed. Yes, they went on to do this, but you went back.
Yeah.
And when I started to have myself up in a corner, that was when I realized of the the part that I played, and that I wasn't always innocent. And even if it was, I wasn't innocent for the fact of what I accepted. I accepted lower than my
Yeah.
worth. I allowed this theatre production to play out. And I have the power to change the script moving forward. And I started to become an activist for myself, like to basically pull myself up. It took a while, and I'm not going to say I always get it right. And there will be times, or many, when I've gone to Fiona and I've given her a scenario, and then the first thing she does is pull me up. And I'm like, thank you for that.
Through gritted teeth.
But yeah, holding yourself accountable
It's
is a
true.
huge part of for our own growth, you know, for our growth. Like, what did you add to the mix? Because 2 people, for a conversation to happen, 2 people need to be more than 2 people, or more than one person needs to be speaking at that time. So when they said this, what was your response? Or did you not say anything? You know?
True.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So,
Do
Hard work.
you know
A
something that comes
question
to
for you,
mind?
Naomi.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
question for Naomi. A quick one. Quick one, Naomi.
yeah, yeah, got my
Yeah.
timer on, love. I've got
Yeah.
my timer on.
The relationship you mentioned, the last serious relationship you mentioned,
Yeah,
do you think you were vulnerable in that relationship?
very much so. Throughout, I was most definitely, I was vulnerable. And I allowed myself to be vulnerable. I enjoyed being vulnerable. There's so many perks in vulnerability. It can be so sweet, you know. So yeah, even though that relationship didn't work out, we did have many great moments, and many of those great moments was when I was open, when I was exposed, when I was able to be stupid and quirky and do you know what I mean? Be goofy or say something that nobody really knew about me, or showing another part of my character, you know, or something like that. There's so many different sides to the vulnerability, and I fully enjoyed it. And that's something definitely that I had to learn, like the balance in life of, because yeah, again, growing up, I was always the one that, you know, my arms were open. You know, I wore my heart. I've always been a person to wear my heart on my sleeves. and I've been burnt a lot through that. So it was more as I got older of learning of how to balance it, and that vulnerability, the openness needs to come from being able to trust, not trusting straight away and making that, I guess, assumption that everyone is nice and everyone operates the same way as you, that there are some dark, evil, red-eyed people out there, you know. But it did take me a long time to learn that, because I was so used to being burnt. So I think, like, I don't know, it kind of, yeah, from a different, you would have think that some of the things that I experienced and grew up experiencing, that I wouldn't have been so vulnerable. In all honesty, I understand why some you know, may question and say, why are you so nice? Why, do you know what I mean? How come you haven't got a hard face about certain things? And think that is just naturally within my spirit, to be joyful, to be open, to be kind, to tell the truth. Even though, yeah, many times telling the truth did get me into trouble, because not everybody wants to hear the truth. So, yeah, I've learned to create that balance within myself, and how and who to trust, with me being honest, with me being exposed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can stand there naked and you're not going to judge me because I'm naked, you know? So, yeah. That's my little 2 pence.
Do you know,
Hey guys, what I'm gonna say, sorry for intruding.
You did that on purpose. Don't go on like your finger didn't.
I really didn't. I honestly didn't. Apologies, but you know, that was nice, and it's given me food for thought as well. When I'm talking, I'm learning, you know. So yeah, and I'm learning. Yeah. So thank you,
you for
guys.
joining,
I don't know how you get me out of here. If you can take me out of the
Fiona, keep her in. Don't remove her. Keep her in.
You're trapped now.
You're trapped.
You're going nowhere.
The camera just needs to zoom in on your face.
I don't know how to use my phone.
Yeah, there's an X at the top. You can delete the photo.
Let me X. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Love it.
Oh dear.
Hilarious.
You see, you make that mistake. I'm going to draw you out. Then make sure you know which buttons you're pressing on the phone, family. Make sure you know what you're doing, because I will bring you in. That's why we say, always be ready.
Always.
Yeah. Imagine.
Always be ready.
Do you know, there was this the thing that came up in therapy a couple of years ago, which is kind of attached to what Naomi was saying a second ago, right? The therapist said to me something along the lines of, we were talking about boundaries, right? And I feel like boundaries are definitely part of this vulnerability conversation, right? But he asked me, what do your boundaries look like? I was like, what do you mean? And so I described it, you know, as a wall and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, it's how high is it, low, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, well, you know, boundaries don't have to be walls. They can be fences, they can be ropes. Like, for example, they could be like, you know, like a red rope of a VIP section.
Yes.
It's not a forceful thing. It's just an indication of who's allowed inside. And it's not like, but most people, when we think about boundaries, you think about this tall thing with like iron fence around the top and it's electrified and all this kind of stuff. But actually, sometimes it could just be like, these are the people who are welcome. like that's it. And it really changed my mindset when it came to this vulnerability thing, because it also means if it's a VIP section, you've got to earn your way in there. And so it's not a reflection of anybody else's value. It's just that these people have proved themselves to be trustworthy. And also, if you're in a VIP section, it doesn't mean you're going to stay there. You can still get the bouncers to usher you out.
Usher you out.
Usher you out. Just be like, thank you
get
for your service.
dragged out by the neck.
No,
you
no,
get
you
dragged
can
out by the neck.
Just keep it
by the
going.
tallest bouncer.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Necessary sometimes.
Yes.
It's not,
Don't
it's
get
not
too
for life.
over familiar.
Exactly.
So talking of the word vol, I can't. What's it
You
called?
got this.
Vulnerable.
We believe in you. We're here with you, girl.
3, 2, 1, go.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Hey.
Vulnerable. I said it. So a question to you, Andre. If you're going to be, for example, if someone's going to be vulnerable to somebody, and like, for example, you're putting your trust in that person. What if that person breaks that trust? What do we do then? Because then would we not then close up again, and would that not scare us to be open and be vulnerable again, or do we just jump back into the vulnerability?
Do you know what? That to be honest is up to the individual, right? But there's certain things that I found because a question I posed to somebody, and as I was asking them the question, I had to reflect on it myself, is that they in that particular situation were talking about them being a giver, right? And they felt that there were a certain amount of people who would exploit their giving, and so they didn't want to give anymore. And I asked the question like, where is the line between that and someone actually I think there was an interview with Mike Tyson randomly enough, right? And he goes and he was I can't remember what the conversation actually was, but he was like, if you change your behavior, they win. So if someone's action can change who I am as a person, then they win. So it's an element of going back to that description I said earlier about me as a person. I got to fortify myself first in terms of being like knowing what my vulnerable bits are enough to be able to have them exposed, period. Whether they treat it nicely or whatever or not. Like my mom always says, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Like if the worst case thing happens and they're to betray my trust, would I be okay? That's where I usually start. And then the question is, because the thing is, I don't want to give like a blanket answer because it could be anything. There could be many of reasons why they betray trust, right? Sometimes there might be a valid reason that we're not aware of, and oh, you didn't show up to this thing, and it's like, well, actually, they were dealing with something. Do you know what I'm saying? Anything could be the case. It's like our translation of what happened. So for me personally, some people have like a strike rule, like there's a certain amount of times that you can break someone's trust before they break. One of the things I've noticed is trust is difficult to build, them quick to break. So you gain trust over time, right? Months and years sometimes, but then it takes one thing and then it's gone, right? You see it happening a lot in relationships and friendships all the time. I was about to say politics, but I don't have trust at all. But but yeah, so at
Let's not
all.
even get
We
into
don't even.
politics.
I need
It's not,
receipts.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Stop talking about the rubbish that we've heard what's his name? Rishi Sunak has been saying.
But
Let's not
we ain't even
even.
gonna give him that space. But yeah, so I feel like, okay, I'm gonna only talk about me as an individual.
You know, swear every time he's like me
as an individual.
Swear going over your face.
Yeah, I think and I've noticed this about myself is that I will, again, another Mike Tyson quote, I will trust you to be yourself. And I would also just reflect on what happened. So if there was trust that I felt was betrayed, I'll question myself, like, why do I feel betrayed in this moment? What is it about it that I felt betrayed by? What were their intentions, all that kind of stuff. I would have to have a conversation with them though. That's the thing. If I felt that way, I would have to have a conversation before I figure out what I'm going to do about it. And I think one thing I've noticed is that sometimes we feel hurt, which is completely valid, but then we'll act based on the feeling without communicating anything. And so we don't have the opportunity to learn anything from it. And this is even me talking to myself, because I've had situations where I've had that as well. I'm not no angel thing. Like, I've been hurt in some situations. Someone acts booky and stuff, and I'm like, you know what, bun you to Babylon. Just I'm out. I'm not picking up your calls. I don't care where your birthday is. I even forgot the date. Like, just all of that kind of stuff is gone. Yeah. But
I felt attacked when you just said that.
is it? It's not you.
Bun you to Babylon.
Babylon. But yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I believe we're all human, and we're all like, I don't know how many people's trust I've broken. Like, I don't know. Like, some may have said something, some may not have, and I know everyone is flawed. And I feel like for me there's like a bit of balance there as well. So when things happen, I do give like a little bit of grace. I don't like being taken for idiot either. Don't get me twisted, but like, there's an element. If something happened, I'll talk about it and be like, so what happened there? Like, be real with me. What happened? And I actually really appreciate it when people come to me like that. Like, I've had situations where a friend has turned around and be like, yo, bro, I really don't appreciate the way you did that. That actually like made me look at you a little bit differently. And I'll be like, oh snap, okay, cool. Let's talk about it. What happened? And then they would tell me why that thing was important to them. And then with that new framework, I'll be like, oh snap, okay, this is a big deal in a way that for me it wouldn't have been. But now I learned something about you, and I know not to do that again. And so there's actually opportunities for growth in that conflict if we give it the opportunity. But that's just the way I handle it.
There's a comment here, going back to what you were saying about boundaries. Andre, Gidding Security has said there are different types of boundaries, including physical, emotional, and social boundaries.
And there's even
Would you
more
agree
than
with
that.
that?
There's even more than
Yeah.
that. So I read a book called Boundaries. Like, Naomi, you know about this, right?
Yeah.
And they broke down everything. So there's
Really?
emotional boundaries, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, how much of your feelings are you going to expose, right? Do
Ooh.
you tell them that you're hurt? Do you even have the vocabulary to identify how you're feeling, right?
It's
There's
damn
that.
deep.
There's physical boundaries. Is it a hug thing? Is it more than that? Do you even want to be in my space?
This got me questioning my whole life.
Yeah,
And
honestly.
then the other side of that is, don't look at me.
Yeah. Even the way you look at me.
You got, before you even think about touching, don't look at me.
What are the signals?
Don't.
You know what I mean? How do I build trust? All that kind of stuff. But then there's
Fiona, do you feel attacked? Do you feel attacked in this moment?
Hey, let me eat my Yorkie bar. You know what I mean?
Well, I believe I've set my boundaries in certain places, like at work. With certain people, you're far too close. You just need to. I need my space. You're far
and
too
don't touch
close.
my hair.
Yeah, don't just. Don't.
But then there's also
You're too close. Yeah.
Let them know. But then there's also things like there's financial boundaries, like how much do you expose? Like, for example, with a partner, do they see your account? Do you show each other's account? When people talk about money, do you get involved? You know, investments and stuff like that. Like, so there's lots of different types of boundaries, and really, it's just with any context, it's how much are you willing to share? That's
right.
In any context. That's the way I look at boundaries. How much are you willing to expose, in a way? So yeah, I definitely agree. There's loads of different types of boundaries, and it's actually interesting when you look at them to see which ones you're open with and which ones you aren't. There might be certain things that are closer to you. And one thing that Naomi said earlier is what's your script? I think something around that you said. And your story that you've grown up with, things that you've seen, things you've learned and perceived are going to have an influence about your relationship with boundaries and vulnerability. Like, if you've seen people being murked your whole life, then you're not going to be very open. If you've
Yeah.
seen good examples of what it means to be open and people trustworthy and all that kind of stuff, then you're more likely to be that way. So
I would say growing up, I was vulnerable because I was acting from a hopeful place. I wasn't always shown demonstrations of trust, but I was always hopeful for that trust. Do you know what I mean? And I would act from, because I'd heard and seen so many people being proven guilty, do you know what I mean? Without them even going to trial, kind of thing. Like they're guilty before being proven innocent. I did, yeah, I guess I created like this hopeful space where like you're innocent before being proven guilty until you prove me wrong. No. So yeah, so that's how I would start off treating everybody the same, but then started to learn that I can be nice to everybody, but I don't have to be so, yeah, again, leaving myself exposed and being so open all the time, because it takes a lot of energy to be vulnerable. It does. It really does. It can be exhausting, especially, and I would say that's more from a place of when you keep on being burnt. It's exhausting of rebuilding and restructuring and putting the pieces back together. So being vulnerable itself isn't exhausting, but when you've been burnt time and time and time and time and time again, it becomes exhausting. Do you know what I mean? So there were so many different elements for why I needed to learn how to do better and to act better, to produce better, basically. Bars.
I don't know why. Do you know what? It's late. We're all tired. This is why we're
I know, right?
right?
I'd like to ask you both a question. Naomi, I'll start with you first. When was the last time you were vulnerable?
Today. Because, yeah, I visited André and, and we had such an open, diverse conversation where it could just, well, not even it could, it just went everywhere. We could have been talking about the colour blue, and then the conversation turned into talking about soil. Not the same topic, but there was just there's just so much space just to go in whatever direction, and to be able to have like a really random thought, and I'm gonna get back to the point, but this just came into mind, and then that's what
She's
we were talking about, and then going back. Oh,
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
You're back.
Earlier today, speaking with Andre, being vulnerable.
How do you feel?
It just feels nice. It feels nice knowing that the both of us have created that space for one another to be vulnerable, that there's no judgment before any judgment, or for there to even, any judgment to be created. It's like being able to ask each other questions to understand what your thought process was about that, or why did you pick that, why did you say that, why do you think that. Do you know what I mean? And feels nice and light to have that safety space.
And Mr. Andre, when was the last, not counting you in what Naomi just said. So apart from that, when was the last time you were vulnerable?
Last time I was vulnerable. The thing is, I feel like I'm vulnerable quite a lot. just in general.
Okay.
I think most days I'm vulnerable in one way or another with somebody or another.
Mm.
I'm constantly teetering around the boundaries of how much I share with people. And similar to what Naomi said, I feel like there's an element of judgment that can affect how vulnerable people will be willing to be. If I
Yeah.
know I'm going to be judged for what I'm going to say, I may not be vulnerable. And I think with me, because I pretty much have no judgment for anybody, um, I am willing to share, which means that other people are willing to share with me. So I
Mm.
tend to be quite vulnerable, just generally. I think I'm trying to think, even over the weekend and stuff, like um, I had very honest conversations with close friends and stuff this weekend,
Okay.
about things I like, things I don't, things I'm struggling with, and it's seamless, just because we've kind of built that relationship with us. I think I'm quite blessed in that sense, actually,
Mm.
because I'm able to do that with quite a few people in my network, that I can just be real with, and I know that it's not going to go any further, but I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be like, yeah, this is what it is.
Mm. When was the last time you was vulnerable, Fiona?
That's
I
right.
need to think. I know. I'm like, when was the? I asked the question, and I'm like, I'm sure they're gonna ask me the same question, and I need to think about it.
Love it.
I'm like, when was the last time? Probably a few weeks ago, I would say.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, just opening it to somebody. Yeah, just being real about how I felt in certain situations and stuff. Yeah. And like once I did that, I felt a release.
Mm,
I think
Mm.
I just felt
hmm.
a big.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've said it now. All the anxiety, everything. Yeah, it was a couple of months ago. I remember now. All that I felt like all the anxiety, everything had just gone. And
Mm,
like,
mm.
Mm.
so what I said is like, whew, that's it. I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
Mm.
felt, I felt, I felt so much better. I felt so good. But yeah.
Mm.
Do you know what came to mind actually just now, right? That I
Mhm.
haven't necessarily thought about before is what it feels like to want to share something with someone, but you don't feel like you can. Like, let's say, for example, we're having a conversation and we come across a topic which is actually really current for me right now, and I
Mm,
really realize in that moment that I need to speak to someone about this, but I don't trust the person in front of me, so I have to hold it in. Has anyone ever
Mhm.
experienced
mm,
that?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Mm,
Definitely. Um,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's stifling.
yeah, and it's
It's
like it's
stifling and not knowing if or when or how, you
mm,
know. Like there's been times when I'm like, okay, when we're on subject, I'll tiptoe it in,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
and then I'm waiting for that subject.
mm,
And I'm even like trying to edge and cuff the subject
hmm,
into the conversation, but then the subject never sticks and stays, so the moment's gone. Then
mm,
it's like, oh, I've got to wait for that again.
mm,
And then it's the build up, the
the
anxiety, you know?
anxiety.
Yeah.
mm,
And then sometimes when like from times like that when I eventually do say something because there's so much anxiety, I don't say it the way that I wanted to. So things so things are translated not very well.
Mm,
mm.
Not very
mm,
That part.
well. Because then the other part is, well, that's not actually what I mean is
Mm,
what I meant,
mm,
what I'm
mm.
trying to say is,
yeah.
and then there's just like, oh, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a tricky one. But I would say it's like anxiety, isn't it? Just that anxious feeling. Do I say it? Okay, right. How do I bring it into the conversation?
Yeah.
Oh, but then if I say it, fuck it, let me just say it. Fuck
Yeah.
it, I'm going to
Sometimes
say I'm going to sound, I don't give a shit, so let me just say what I'm going to say.
you just got to rip the band-aid off.
Just got to rip
Being like, all
it
right, cool. This is it.
Said
This
it.
is it.
Said what I said, I
Yeah.
did what I did. Said it. Yeah. It's what it is.
Yep. I think one thing that we maybe talked about a little bit, but maybe we could, I don't know about time and all that kind of things there, but like what came to mind as well is the actual thing that we're scared of, where we are vulnerable and in the moment we face rejection of some way, shape, or form. Like, so I'm opening up to you and you're like, nope. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
that part, I feel like, is an element that we're all scared of as well. It's like, what if that person won't accept whatever I'm sharing? Or what if, or even worse, what if they reject it completely? Or whatever that might be. And it's like, again, this for me goes back to how fortified am I in who I am, that how they react doesn't, not exactly that it doesn't affect me, because it will, to be honest with you, just to be real. But it's like, how do I process that? Like, I think I was talking to you, Naomi, about this communication course that I did, and one of the things they pointed out is basically what CBT and all that kind of stuff is based around. The idea of you can only really control your thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? And anything that anyone else does is like a consequence of your actions and behaviors, but you don't control what their response is going to be. You can only control what your response to their response will be. And
Wow.
so it's like, it's not necessarily what happens, but how you deal with it that will shape you and your relationship with them moving forward. So it's like, okay, cool, this person acted booky because they obviously are not in a space where they can talk about this topic. What am I going to do now? Okay, is it our friendship is over, or do we just not talk about this subject? You know, like what is it that we're going to do now? And I think for me, it's like not being afraid to have that conversation with myself
Yeah.
first before I even have it with them. Because I see some situations where like something happens and that's the end of the whole thing. It just so happens that that particular topic is the foundation of that the entire relationship is on, right? And then it's like, all right, cool, the whole thing comes crumbling down. But then if it's something that was like, one of the peripheries and stuff, then maybe it can be salvaged, maybe you just avoid that room in the house, just leave it there. And then just like, okay, cool, we just don't go there.
Something that I would like to add, and it's on the subject of the sexes, and the battle of the sexes, and how it has been said that, and it is said that men can't, the male species can't be vulnerable.
Who said that?
However, did I just?
Hold on, someone just mentioned something. I would advise you to get a book called Intelligence Emotion 2.0. It says a lot about this topic.
Okay.
I'm Googling it right now.
Huh?
Have you got it?
Check it out.
I'm screenshotting. Let me screenshot this so I can remember this comment.
Thank you, Gidding Security, for sharing that. Thank you so much.
Guide to master your emotions, stop overthinking and discover. Okay, cool. Found it.
Yeah. It'll be on my list. I do, overthink. I do that.
Send us the link, babe. Send us the link. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, that it has been said about men finding it difficult to be vulnerable. But I think what is overlooked with that very deep comment is okay, I can't say what it is statistically and what the percentage is. However, traditionally, men are to pursue the woman, right? To pursue a woman not knowing what the response is going to be. That is usually the beginning, the foundation of when the connection, the relationship, the energy starts.
Mm-hmm.
So that is actually contradicting the comment of men can't be vulnerable, because if from the beginning you're being vulnerable, like a man approaching a woman, not knowing if she's going to say yes, to give her his to give him her hand, and say, like, even like going out and you're dancing, and then a guy sees you dancing and they want to dance with you, and then they come over to say, oh, would you like to dance? And then the woman, it's either oh yeah, or it's not right now. Enjoy your evening. Oh, thank you. Bye. You know, that moment, the man is being vulnerable because he doesn't know what the response is going to be. So yeah, that just tricked into my mind, and I thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah, I think there's different elements of vulnerability. Like that part is around pursuit, right?
Yeah.
Effectively what you're being vulnerable about is the possibility of rejection from the other person, right? But I guess in that sense, there's also the thrill of the pursuit as well, right? So there's an element of that.
Okay.
There's
Is that the
there's other
hunter?
kinds,
Is
the whole hunter thing.
just the yeah, that's the hunt. Okay.
Yeah. But then there's also another, well, there's more elements of vulnerability, but there's also another one which is like my insecurities about myself. Like, am I able to be vulnerable about that? And I feel like there are certain things that you experience growing up which either tell you can or you can't be vulnerable about different things or elements of who you are, right? Some things are praised, some things are shunned, whether you're male or female as well. Or like depends on the culture and stuff as well, and a whole heap of stuff like your family dynamics, your friendship group, all these things would have taught you things about what is okay to be vulnerable about and what is not okay to be vulnerable about. And I think that is part of it as well, because like someone can be really vulnerable about being, rejected. It's like, all right, cool, but we all in this together, you know what I'm saying? But they would not necessarily be like, if they are, let's say, for example, as a dude, you are not confident in your ability to provide for your partner. Like that's a different kind of vulnerability. It's a completely different topic. So who would you share that with? Could you share that with your partner? Would you share that with your friends? All that kind of stuff.
One sec. Carry on, one sec. I'm coming.
We talked about financial vulnerability. Are you going to tell someone you're in debt? All that kind of stuff. So like there's different kinds. So I feel like guys, there are certain, and women, I think it's not just guys, I think it's anyone. There are certain things you grow up feeling like you can talk about and some things you feel like you can't.
Yeah. I think that's very true.
Yeah, there are so many sides. Lord. Yeah. We could talk about
it's a very vast topic, like you said at the beginning, Andre. It can go in so many different ways, so many branches to the tree. It's like a tree that has many branches. The tree of vulnerability. Yeah, there's so much to it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
And I thank you for. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was literally gonna say, like, for me, I think the biggest thing is going back to how we are with ourselves. Like, going back to the Eminem thing, right? Is can we lay ourselves bare to ourselves first? Like, so for example, in that scene, he talked about everything, right? Things that people may not even admit to themselves, never mind to a crowd of people. So it's like, for me, can you be vulnerable with yourself first and be like, for example, am I okay? Simple question like that. Like, can I be honest? Like, in my gut reaction, it was like, yeah, what do you mean? I'm fine. Like, you know what I mean? But can I actually sit and be like, actually, no, do you know what? I have felt detached from something recently and I don't know what that is. Or I haven't felt joy in a while. Or I am worried about something or something like that, Or, I need something and I'm not sure how to ask for it. Like all these kind of things are things we can be vulnerable with ourselves with first, and
Yeah.
then we can be vulnerable with other people, because going back to what you said earlier on, what happens if they retaliate or whatever that might be, if we're not vulnerable with ourselves first to make ourselves resilient, then we're always going to break when people retaliate. We're not going to have any defense that we've built up by knowing who we are, how strong we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just what I wanted to round up with for my own side.
No, thank you so much,
Yeah.
and thank you for
Thank
joining us
you.
this
Yeah, thank you
evening.
so
Really has
much.
been
You know, when I say yeah, the difference between what's gonna happen right now versus when I click the X here, yeah, I'm falling straight to sleep. You have no idea.
Oh, there's a comment here. To who cause many will hear and do nothing, and then your guard is up to who you let in.
To who?
Is that fine?
Because many will hear and do nothing, and then your guard is up to who you let in.
To whom you let in.
I think it depends. Like if I understand that question, is
Yeah.
your guard is up and other people may not have done anything for your guard to be up with them specifically,
Yeah.
and so you
Right.
don't have the opportunity to let them in. And I think for me it goes back to my idea of boundaries and what it looks like. Is it a wall, is it a fence, or is it a velvet rope? And for me, right now it's a velvet rope. And so I don't force anyone in or out. I just show them what what it looks like. And if they're welcome to come into the VIP section, you know. But there are certain rules once you're in there. And
Yeah.
and it's kind of like similar to what Naomi said about innocent until proven guilty as opposed to guilty until proven innocent. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know you this well yet, so let's get to know each other. Until I know otherwise, I will assume that
Yeah.
you're, a certain way.
I cannot be vulnerable with anyone but myself, because the information I give out will be used to deem me a certain way. But that's kind of like what you were saying there, Andre. You need to be like yourself. You start with yourself first.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what they're saying, don't they?
Yeah, but then again, there's sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say, to me, that's kind of like something what you've already touched on. They've not literally be vulnerable with yourself first, so no one can use anything as a weapon against you. It's not gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
You've already built that armor up.
Yeah.
So just be vulnerable with yourself first, and it is not an easy thing.
No, it's not.
Really isn't easy. It's not something that's going to be done by flick of a switch. It takes time, man.
Yeah.
It really does take time.
But you know what I like
And
about
be
the
patient
analogy of
with
the
yourself.
but you know what I like about the analogy of vulnerability being cornered off by a velvet rope?
Yeah.
You always get the peekers.
Yeah. Yeah.
The peekers.
Yeah, of
They're
course.
trying to tiptoe to see what's going off
They're like,
over
oh, the
there.
bed
Trying
looks
to get
nice in
sneaking
there.
around the side,
Yeah. Yeah. So I do really like that analogy, because you do find that there's a lot of peekers.
Yeah.
They know that they can't come in, but they're peeking to see what, like, if they can just about hear or see something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
See something that's deep and close to you, but they're not, but they don't see nothing. So then, some people like that who are the peekers. They're the ones with no information, but then they create the stories that when they haven't even had the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, there's that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you gonna hate from outside of the club? You can't even get in. Yeah. Like one thing I'd say, if I understand that comment as well about being deemed a certain way, it kind of I keep thinking about the thing we said at the beginning is, for me, vulnerability is the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of deep connections with people. So if we're not willing to be vulnerable with other people, then we risk ourselves only having shallow relationships with people because we don't trust them with any information about ourselves.
Yeah,
And so
that's so that's deep.
and so it's like, because I get it, because they could turn around and like really destroy us from the inside out. But unless we, like, I remember being in a relationship and she said something real, like, that stuck with me ever since. She said, you've got to give me the opportunity to fail, otherwise I will never succeed. And basically what that meant for me was like, if I'm not willing to open up to her, then she will never be able to get to my inner circle in my heart. Do you know what I'm saying? And she would always be in the periphery. And so I completely get it. And we all suffer from this. It's like a fear thing. Like, what if they treat me this way? What if they do that? What if they do that? And it's a real thing. But without us like risking it, we will never see what that level of connection will look like. So that, imagine having someone who you actually do get to a stage where you can just be yourself around, and you don't need to pretend, you don't need to wear a mask, you don't need to, like, act like you're okay when you're not, you don't need to wear certain things because you're trying to impress them, you don't need to do any of that. You can literally come as you are, and you're accepted because there's nothing that they don't know. Like that, and they have proved time and time again that
Makeup
they're
off,
trustworthy with that.
wig off,
All of
gown
that,
off.
all of
I
that.
am here.
I mean, maybe give a little bit of a warning first, but yeah,
That I'm here.
Do you know what I mean? I love it.
Well,
I
yes,
don't
there,
know.
ladies. Sometimes you have to give the man the warning. Just let them know. I'm taking the hair off now. Okay,
Yeah.
taking off the hair,
Like, count me
taking off the
in.
eyelashes, taking off the
Yeah.
eyelashes.
But you know what?
Do it in stages.
Yeah, small. But actually, thinking about it now, though, that's actually a pretty good analogy because, like, also there's an element of, if you're going to be vulnerable, like, do you let people know you're about to be? So for example, if I'm going to share something which has been really big for me and I'm struggling with, sometimes I'm like, listen, I've got something I want to share, but it might be quite heavy. Like, where are you right now to be able to receive that? And if they're like, do you know what, I'm not in that space, or like, maybe not right now or whatever, then I'll be like, cool. If that changes, let's have a conversation on another day. And then they have the opportunity to be like, you know what, actually, I'm not sure if we are in that space, to be having these kind of level of conversations. And then you don't have to open it up at all. Yeah, you always ask. That's
Yeah,
dope.
someone said they always asked. They always ask.
Always.
Blitz 247 says, "Real talk, my brother. Takes a lot though, as people always have several layers to uncover. Sometimes look like a completely different person." And
Oh,
then before
100%.
that, someone said Lego.
Yeah.
Lego.
Okay, I'm gonna put my hand up on this to answer the question. Andre, don't give me that face.
Okay.
I don't always ask, and there's many reasons for that.
So
One of
you
the
didn't always ask
reasons
what? So
I
what didn't
don't
you always ask?
always ask, are you ready for me to be vulnerable?
Yeah.
I
Oh no,
don't
I didn't
always
ask.
ask.
I never asked.
Part of that is that's just not the way that my brain operates. Like, my brain can be really random, and I can be stimulated to say something that links to what is the current conversation. I won't say now, this is not me now, but there was a time when I would test with my vulnerability, like, how quick or how far will this person run, or will they stay if I open up this dialogue? If they stay, they're proving they're a real one. If they run, thank you for leaving, because that means that you're not deserving of where I'm at, who I am, and what I'm aiming to be, where I'm aiming to go, if we can't go there in the conversation. So I did go through a period of vulnerability being a test marker, you know.
Right, Jobmatic, did you want to join this live for the next 5 minutes? Because you put requests, and
Was that another
if I
flick
add
of the
you,
hand?
if me add you, you have to come on, you know. Right, okay, you like me.
That is
Brother
hilarious.
man, you've got 5 minutes. You've got 5 whole minutes.
Is he coming on? It looks like him not coming. This is
Is
decline.
it
You see,
declining
that's
it?
why I said, make sure you know what you're doing with your phone, people. See, you declined, didn't it? Because you pressed the wrong button.
Technology. Technology, I swear down.
Don't use for this show, because I will draw you out. We will draw you out.
We're all
Okay.
swiping. We just keep on swiping and you don't know what
Swiping,
you're
exactly. You
swiping.
don't know what you're swiping. Yeah. A quick comment there, Renee, on what you said. Comment and a question. Because you were saying you would test them, and if they were all fine with it, there was a keeper. If there wasn't, you say they weren't deserving. My question is, even, no, I was just going to ask, can you say they weren't deserving, or they just weren't ready and they weren't in that ready to accept it at that time? They're not in this, yeah, I said it's not that they're not deserving of you, they're just not ready.
Looking back at one being in that moment, a Mariah Carey moment, having a moment, okay? So looking back at that moment, it was both. It was
Okay.
both. There was some that you're not ready, you're not ready,
Yeah.
you are not ready. And then there was others that you're not deserving. They was not deserving, and they proved, even just with the way that they behaved, they lived, the way that they openly spoke, do you know what I mean, that they was not deserving. And they showed me the energy that I needed to see to basically protect myself, to not go through entertaining something that just would have been a waste of time. So yeah, it was a bit of both. You know, looking back, it's just actually, you know what, if I was a little bit patient, you know, maybe, you know, they could have eventually have been ready. But then with that's a whole different conversation, and speaking about patience, because a block in my life, I wasn't very patient, you know, wasn't patient. Like,
there's a question here to you then, what did you do to cost that?
To cost what? Like, to cost, what did I do to cost that? Would you
It's
get
insecurity.
Yeah. Would you be able to put more context to that question so I know how to answer? Because one does like to talk, but I know that we're on a time constraint, so I don't want to,
Yes,
you know.
2 minutes, yeah.
You give a couple minutes left, because we're all like.
If you're able to give more context into what you mean, what did I do to cost that?
DMers. Oh, the feeling of he's not ready. Yeah.
Right, sorry. The first 2 words that came into my head, and this was in a time in my life when one dealt with patience, or the lack of, block and delete. Block and delete. There's no more conversation. We have nothing to talk about. So delete my number, and you're blocked and you're deleted. Yeah, that's life. End of story. We move on. But then that was like a coping the that was a coping and a coping, a coping mechanism, preparation, of protection. Do you know what I mean? And a way of not using any more of my energy, pondering on that. Let's move.
Yeah.
And I don't mean let's move to the next relationship, but move on to myself, my life. What am I doing? Where am I going? What are my aims? You know? So, yeah, that's what one done at a period of time in one's life.
One and one.
What? Can you remember? Okay, this is so random, but can you remember that R&B hip hop tune from back in the day? And it went one. Do
you know, I remember that part, but I can't remember what song it actually was. I can only remember that part of the song.
Yeah, I don't remember
I
any
don't
other part
remember
of the
any of the
tune.
rest of the song.
And I don't know
Just that bit.
what they were talking about.
What's he said? So your boxes weren't ticked, so that's what giving security said to you. Your boxes weren't ticked.
No, they weren't, because they wasn't willing to be vulnerable. They wasn't
willing to be vulnerable, or they weren't willing to accept your vulnerability.
Well, both really. Both really. You know, I wasn't allowed to be vulnerable. There wasn't space for me to be vulnerable. I wasn't allowed to feel safe to be vulnerable. You know, they showed that my vulnerability triggered them. So no, my boxes were not tipped. And I think for me, safety for me is when it's not just me opening up and exposing myself, when the other person reciprocates that, where it's, and it's not that I'm asking, I'm not, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to probe and I'm not going to ask, but if you feel that you can be vulnerable, now I'm having bloody difficulty anyway. But like, when you're showing me that you can be vulnerable with me, that is like, yeah, this is a beautiful, safe space. And I want to remain here. I want this space to grow. You know, we're allowing this to grow. Feeling safe to me is being able to be vulnerable with one another. And that is how a lot of my close, well, actually not even a lot, all of my close, tight-knit relationships are built on vulnerability. And that's with the guys and the women. Like, this is a safe space right here. Come on in. You know, like, let's sit here for a while. Let's just sit here and don't even say anything and just have silence. Even that's vulnerability, because you don't have to overthink and like, oh, I need to think of like pitching in with something. Like, no, let's be okay with silence. That, you know, so yeah, that's where all of my close-knit relationships, that is the base of all of them, to be fair. And they're all very, 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 do you know what I mean, diverse and different. But yeah, there's vulnerability there. And I'm allowed to be vulnerable and goofy and whatever I want to be in those moments with those people. And I'm fully accepted for it. I love it. Love it. So yeah.
To end, Andre, I would like to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, hang on, let me read. Hang on. Someone made a comment. Sometimes silence is the loudest voice, sis. Just to sit and be still in safe space. Yes, I say that to people all the time.
Definitely. Go on, Sips.
Oh, the name, yeah, and Naomi is a comment. You probably need to change your choices. Just saying.
But then remember, I'm talking about past tense.
There we go.
I spoke about past tense, not where I am today.
So where you are today, would you say your choices have changed?
100%. Most definitely. Most definitely. For a long period of time, and Fiona, you know this, I spent a long period of time making the choice not to react, but to observe. And that was on many different things, people, subjects.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So not reacting with, not even just reacting like saying something, but not reacting with overthinking, with assuming. Do you know what I mean? Like breathing, being still. And yes, I would talk certain things out and like to expand my head space, but observing for a long period of time before making a decision, you know. And in that space, I learned so much about myself, about my boundaries, about my worth, about what are the concepts of my life, of who I am, my being, you know. So yeah, but yeah, people talking about past tense, me, not me today.
Okay, the question I wanted to ask you, Andre, to end today's live is, what is, when you've been, all the times you've been vulnerable, what is the most, what's the word I want to use? What's the word I want to use? What's the most positive thing that you have got out of being vulnerable?
What's the most positive thing I've got out of being vulnerable? Connection. That's, if I was to go back to that, it's just connection and trust and all those kind of things. Like the best friends, like, you know, when you think about, okay, on that day where I'm gonna get hitched, who's gonna be my best man? The people who come to mind are the people who I've been through the fire with, the people who I've been real with, the people who I can trust, and those things, and they haven't got there without me and them being vulnerable. I remember having a conversation with one of my friends once, and we sat across the table from each other after going axe throwing, right? So we had to get the manly stuff out of the way. You know what I mean? Just to make sure, you know what I mean? Yeah, all of this stuff. And then we sat across and we were like, the conversation we had, we were both like pretty much in tears because we were both struggling. And I felt like in that moment we were closer than we had been in many years because we weren't covering up with an event or business or like our next project or something like that. We were just being real, like with each other. Like, I'm struggling with this and you're struggling with this, or like, you know, I find out this thing about my family history and I'm coming to terms with it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like all this kind of stuff when we were like, how have we not known this? And we've been like, we've known each other this many years. And that only came from vulnerability. Like we were both prepared to be vulnerable. So yeah, for me, closer relationships would be the most positive things I've gotten out of it. And then from that as well, you feel supported as well. It's like if something happens, you've got someone you can go to. Like, cause like if something happens at work or in a relationship or something like that, and I don't have close relationships, who do I turn to? Like, then it means I'm alone. Like this whole idea about this pandemic of loneliness, part of it is because we're only really connecting in digitally, and we're kind of stepping away from those deep connections. So it's like if we're able to have access to thousands of people in one go, then it's difficult to build connection with individuals. So it's like, and then when the proverbial shit hits the fan, if we're not able to think of who I actually am friends with, then I'm on my own.
That's so,
Thank you.
Beautifully said. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for joining us once again on this platform. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. Because it's been a while, man.
It has been a while.
It's been lovely.
Yeah, I've been hiding for minutes.
You say you've been hiding, but you've been working hard. Before we go, where can people find you and everything that you do. So do not miss out any of your social media handles.
Snap.
Okay.
All right, cool. Here's a list. So, when it comes to my coaching with business, it is on Ebola Global Coaching. When it comes to coaching with creatives, artists, it's No Starving Creatives. When it comes to coaching individuals, it is Coaching to Potential, Coach to Potential. Those are the 3 handles that I'm mainly using. And then if you just want to speak to me as Andre, as an individual, then it's just André Bright.
Me?
Me as an individual, André Bright. Yeah, those are the, yeah, exactly. Just there, somewhere. And yeah, apart from that, just connect with me. Like I always say I'm an open book. Like I'm cool to meet with anybody. And if anyone's got a project or something they're doing, let me know, man. It would be wicked to connect with people. Yes, Sips in the building.
Hey.
One thing I've got out of being vulnerable, finding positive ways to move forward, if that makes sense out loud. 100%.
Yeah, of course.
Being,
Definitely.
yeah.
Move forward. Is that thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
thank you for the
Andrew,
comments. Thank you. Big up to you also, Queen. Much love.
100%.
Yes. People, before we go, just to remind you, tickets now available for our live that we're doing on the 31st of May. So yes. Tickets went live on Friday, I believe. The tickets went live on Friday. On Eventbrite.
We're saying 31st of May.
Friday, the 31st of May. Usual place, Karma Sanctum, Soho, London. Tickets are available through Eventbrite or Meetup. So they're the 2 platforms that you can find us on.
Yeah, start time is 7 p.m.
Make sure. Those who know. Those who know.
And it's
Andre,
like,
you know.
Yeah. I was literally just
imagine how beautiful the conversation has been here, and one experiencing that in person.
Yeah.
It is powerful.
Especially when they stop recording.
Very powerful.
And what did you say, Andre?
I said it's especially when you stop recording.
Yeah.
The dark version.
Oh yeah.
But the first half we record, and then the second half we do not record. And that is when many become very more so open
and vulnerable. Exactly.
More
vulnerable. So if you would like to come and experience that, come on. Come and join us.
Be vulnerable with myself and Naomi, because trust me, on that night we are.
And what was that saying? Wait a minute. I think it was Solange Knowles that said this. By us, for us. What was it? Can you remember that saying?
By us, for us.
For us. This says 3 lines. By us, for us, something us. But I can't remember what the bloody saying is. But basically, we'd just like to reiterate this platform as by us, for us. You know, everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome. We always say that, but it is by us, for us. And this space is to encourage us to be open, to be honest, to be vulnerable, you know, to connect, and to evolve and elevate individually and together. So come on.
Yes, Mel. Yes. See, they're hot sessions. Sips up.
Come along,
come on
down.
Come
along.
Free.
Come along.
Come along.
We're learning, and we've learned so much on this journey, you know, and we encourage to actively listen. So when we actively listen and we hear somebody else's story or words, or even like their passion, we learn so much from one another and everybody that joins us on this. So it's a beautiful journey. So if you're interested And if you're here, you must be interested. Come along.
Okay.
Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now, because there's one thing about Sisters Talk About us. It's not about just mine and Naomi's voices. It's about all of our voices.
Yeah.
So it's not
And
just
we're called Sistartalkabout because we are sisters. We
and
are
we talk.
also
So, and we talk about anything
And
and
yeah.
everything.
everything.
Yeah.
So we gotta say.
So yes, the 31st of May, you can type in the search section on Eventbrite, on Meetup, just put in Sisters Talk About and you'll find the link to our tickets.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, Andre, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much.
It's been an
Thank
absolute
you.
pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah, man.
absolute pleasure.
It's been
And
a
I've said
pleasure
this
for
to
me as
you
well. Thank you.
before, but I look forward to your future books
Yes.
that you write.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
That's just the only thing that you haven't tippled over into, but I know it's coming,
That's
babes.
true.
I know
That's
it's
true.
coming.
The first book is going to be anonymous. I tell you that for free. It's going to be full of all the
You better mind I
wahala I
don't read
find
it
myself.
first, because
Yeah,
if
do you
I
know what I mean?
read it,
You'll know
if I
who.
read it and I know, and then I'm just like, hold on, this language sounds like Andre.
Yeah.
I will be the first one to go onto TikTok to create a video to expose you.
And this is me being vulnerable, you know.
Wait. Flips Up just said, my next spoken word piece may be about vulnerability.
Right, sis,
Okay,
messages, please.
Flips Up.
Yeah,
DM me,
messages, please.
Messages,
Yeah,
please.
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Drop us a DM.
yeah,
Okay.
Do the
send us
thing.
a DM.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk.
Let's talk.
Let's talk. Because yeah, again, for those of you that haven't been to any of our events, we have open conversation. However, we do also have performers. So every event is very different, you know.
Yeah.
However, you know, we're not just open to the conversation, we're open to the creative minds and the creativity, and how, you know, one may not be able to sit there and open up and talk and take the mic and ask a question or give their point of view, but one will be able to share their point of view via performing on the stage. So we're open to all the various ways of communicating to get certain messages across. So okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do that.
Definitely.
We'll do that, love. But
Yes, people. Until next time, it's been a pleasure.
Always.
On this
Always.
Monday evening. It's been great, man.
I'm going to bed.
Mm.
I'm getting bed, man. I need to turn something right.
Yeah. Oh, before we go, folks, I just had one question for the both of you, because we've never done this before. Even though the topic that we spoke about, Fiona, what are you doing that for? I don't know if you're trying to hide from me, or is it the light? What is it?
What's the question? What's the question?
Rules? Not really. So yeah, even though the topic is vulnerability, what one word from this whole conversation or from the topic is jumping out of your heart or out of your mind right now when thinking about what we've spoken
When I think about the word now.
Yeah.
Velvet.
The word, and also the whole conversation, what word comes to mind right now to end this?
Velvet.
Just
velvet.
Yeah.
Velvet. You said velvet rope.
Velvet. Yeah, the velvet rope. That's right.
The velvet rope. The velvet rope.
The velvet rope.
See, I got it. See?
You see?
I got it. I'm in his mind. I'm in his mind.
Because when you said velvet, I thought of Prince. I was like, velvet. I could just see Prince there stringing his guitar. Velvet.
That's it.
I didn't think of that, and I thought, no, rope. It's the rope. The velvet rope.
There you go. There you go. The velvet rope. That'll be a chapter in my book.
Okay. Don't put that chapter once again in the anonymous book, because I will call you out.
As if you know it's me, remember. Amazing. What was your word?
Mine was peace.
Peace. That
Yeah,
was it.
just,
Got you.
I don't
yeah,
know.
just peace.
What's my word? Well, I have two words. My
No
first
one.
word was openness.
Amen. Don't be
I know,
no one.
but I'm split. Openness,
One.
love. Openlessly loved. That makes sense.
Okay.
It's double barrel.
Double barrel. I like that.
Oh, I'm really let you have it. So what was it? Hopelessly, openly.
Openlessly loved.
Open Leslie.
Yes.
Openly. That's not a word. I don't understand that
So
word.
loved without being open.
You,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
No, I
Openly loved.
don't.
That's
Oh,
what I
got you. Okay,
meant.
openly loved. Okay, got you. Got you.
Oh,
Back in the room now.
it
What?
doesn't even make no sense.
I'm tired. I'm tired.
Good night,
Forgive
bye.
me.
Right, later, people. Until
All right.
next
Love,
time.
Bye,
Love,
peace,
everyone.
and
peace, and
peace.
peace. Mwah.
Mwah.
Good night.
Peace.
Night,
Blessings.
Good
folks.
night.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.